when we think of the decentralized finance world, Coinbase is one name that all of us think of, like one of the first few names that we all think of. So what is it exactly that Coinbase is trying to do over there? Now, if you want to invest into any of these decentralized finance projects, you'll either have to have a lot of the tech infrastructure present with you to buy into those projects in terms of becoming a miner or a staker, or just to, have a cold storage for all the cryptocurrencies that you have with you. Or you can go to Coinbase and they offer all of those as a service for you. So they're not, so when you think of decentralized finance, Coinbase is like a gatekeeper over there. So to me, it kind of seems like an oxymoron over there, that you have decentralized finance on one side and a centralized exchange on the other side, who's helping you to do all of these decentralized activities in a centralized manner. But that said, I think Coinbase, even for me, was like a stepping stone into the decentralized world. So definitely they are doing a lot of good on that side. But where they're stumbling a lot is with respect to regulations. And this is something that I cannot stress enough of. If you are a fintech company, or if you aspire to become a fintech company, the number one thing that you always have to keep in mind is to be very good friends with the regulator, is to have like an inside understanding into what they are thinking. Now, I wouldn't say that, Coinbase did not do that. The CEO did try reaching out to Gary Gensler, the SEC chair in the US, a lot of times when he was elected into the role. But the writing was always there on the wall. Now, Gary Gensler comes from a background where, so he used to teach blockchain and decentralized finance at MIT before his current role as the head of the SEC. So he definitely understands this. But if you remember, one of the first few interactions on Twitter, at least, that was there, was when SEC had said that apart from Bitcoin and Ethereum, everything else counts as a security. And so if you're not registered, you should not be trading in those particular securities. So this included a lot of other cryptocurrencies like Avalanche or Polygon, Cardano, and all of those other names as well. Instead of going back to the SEC chairman and telling him that, hey, this is how we feel that these cryptocurrencies pass or do not pass the Harvey test. Harvey test is, by the way, the go-to check to figure out if something qualifies as a securities or not. Instead of doing that, what Brian Armstrong and a lot of others did is they put out tweets saying, Gary Gensler does not know what he's saying. He needs to be schooled. Honestly, the worst way for you to be a fintech company is to be enemies with the regulator. So that is something that they started doing. And over the years, because of a lot of scams that we were seeing going around in the crypto world, the regulators started coming down heavily on them. So obviously the focus was renewed on making sure that all these unlisted cryptocurrencies or unlisted securities on these crypto exchanges get delisted. So that is where Coinbase ran into a problem with the regulators. And now they are in a court battle with the SEC to prove that, all the assets that they've listed are commodities and not really securities. But the problem there is, so while previously SEC chair did say that even Ethereum counts as a commodity, not a security, the issue now is with Ethereum staking. Now, whenever you stake with the expectation of getting return. And the Hobby test clearly says that anytime an asset, you do something to an asset with an expectation of returns, it counts as a security. That is what a lot of these exchanges were kind of giving. So even Coinbase had a few products where if you have, say, X amount of Bitcoin with you, they'll give you an X+1 if you agree to XXX. All of those now have to be scrapped. Now, the interesting thing is that amidst all of this chaos and confusion, a lot of the traditional financial institutions, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, Wisdom Tree, all of them are now filing for or are refiling for a spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, why do I think Coinbase, where they failed, so Coinbase had also filed for it, Grayscale had filed for it, both of them were rejected by the SEC. So now when they failed, why do I think that, these traditional financial companies have an edge? simply because they are giving the regulators the assurance that whatever activities are going on, we'll make sure that a transparency is maintained so that these ETFs are not used for market manipulations. That was the biggest point that the SEC was making with all of that, telling people to not have unregistered securities, was because of these fraud and market manipulation. None of them paid attention to it, which is where Coinbase is now sliding, and the traditional financial companies that they wanted to disrupt are picking up the reign over there.